Welcome to AP Biology. Today I want to talk about the liquid that your cells are bathed in. So this is a cell, and there's always water inside your cell, and there's always water outside of your cells. In fact, in our planet, every life form has water in it, and we think that life evolved in water. So water's a really big deal. So I want to define a few terms that have to do with stuff that dissolves in water or just stuff that dissolves in general. And then we're going to talk about water being the thing that, for living things, does the dissolving, if that makes sense. So a solvent is the liquid that does the dissolving. For our purposes, that solvent is pretty much always going to be water. The solute is the thing that gets dissolved. So in your cells, you have salts that get dissolved in water. You have sugars that get dissolved in water, ions that are, I already said that. So anyway, a solute is the material that gets dissolved, and the solvent is the liquid that does the dissolving. When you mix them together, you get a solution. So solute and solvent sound very similar. So I usually give my kids this ridiculous picture. This is a swimming pool that's shaped like a funnel. And so see the V, that's the solvent. Pretty good, right? So there's the liquid. And then here's our neighbor who's feeling a little nervous, and the neighbor's name is Lou. And so the kids in the pool are like, come on in, Lou, the water's great. And so Lou comes in and goes swimming. And so I hope they don't dissolve. But the stuff that's in the water is solute. Good stuff, right? That's good stuff. All right. Solution. A solution is a mixture in which one substance is dissolved in another. So in biology, that's pretty much always aqueous, meaning the solvent is water. I have seen one question where they gave a theoretical, what if this stuff were dissolved in a nonpolar solvent? But anyway, for living things, as far as we know, in the universe, water is the solvent. So let's look at water a little bit. So here's an oxygen attached by a covalent bond to a couple of hydrogens. And so the electrons are shared by them. And so you might remember that oxygen is very, very electronegative. It pulls those electrons to itself. And so the electrons that are shared spend more of their time here. So this side ends up being partially negative, and that's what that little symbol means. This side ends up being partially positive. So what can dissolve in this? Well, anything that is sort of like it. We say like dissolves like. What happens is water has a slightly negative side. Anything that is positive will mix with water because this side of it here will be attracted to positive things. Anything that's negative or partially negative, well, this side will attract to that. So any charged atom or ion, sort of like sodium or chloride or, I don't know, calcium, or any lopsided molecule, meaning polar molecule, like, for example, here's sugar. And sugar has all of these OHs off of it that are also negative and positive. So any ion or any polar molecule will mix with water. They'll dissolve together. We're going to call these hydrophilic. So what does hydro mean? You've seen the word the prefix hydro before, like a fire hydrant. Hydro means water. Or you might know the term dehydrated when you're really, really thirsty. You feel dehydrated. Or maybe you've had plenty to drink and you feel fully hydrated. So hydro is water. Hydroplaning is when the car is driving on water instead of down on the pavement. Philic means to love. So hydrophilic means things that love water. It means things that mix with water. So this is why ions mix with water. Water is attracted to them. It looks like this. It's kind of cool. What I want you to notice here is the water molecules. This is water. Here's the oxygen end that's negative. Notice all of these water molecules have, it forms a sphere of hydration. The whole ion is surrounded by water, and it's all the negative sides that are attracted to the positive. They're like, oh, you're the opposite of me. And the chloride ion is the water is backwards, right? It's the positive sides that are attracted to the negative chloride ion. So here's just another way to try to remember hydrophilic, and if you remember a polar molecule. So remember, a polar molecule is something like water that has that funky charge distribution where one side is a little bit negative and one side's a little bit positive. So this is Phil the polar bear, because Phil is very hydrophilic, right? And polar bears do, they like the water, I think. So Phil is hydrophilic, and he's a polar bear, right? That's because polar molecules are hydrophilic. Good stuff, right? That's good stuff. Okay, opposite of that is nonpolar stuff. So a nonpolar molecule would be like this end of a fatty acid. So here's a lipid and it's got something over here, but over here it's got this long chain of carbon and hydrogen. So who pulls the electrons harder? This hydrogen or that one or that one or that one or that one? And the answer is none of them pull any harder than the other. This long molecule is like this long straight chain. It doesn't have any funky charge distribution. This hydrogen has as many electrons drawn to it as that one. It's sort of all the same. So these are nonpolar. It's a nonpolar molecule. So large straight molecules are repelled by water. It doesn't mean that water doesn't like them. It means that water is more attracted to other water molecules. So the negative side of water here is attracted to the positive side of water here. You could put parentheses around it if you want it to be good. The negative side of water here is attracted to the positive side of water here. This negative is attracted to that positive. This positive is attracted to that negative. So the water will end up all sort of getting together and shunning or not being next to the nonpolar stuff. So they are called hydrophobic because they don't mix with water. So phobic means fear of. They're not really afraid. It's just that there's nothing that water is attracted to on them. So phobic means fear of, like arachnophobia. And what happens is these things separate from water. So you might have had salad dressing where you hopefully close the top tightly and you shake it. And the oil will end up in a matter of minutes really separating out from the water and the stuff dissolved in water because nonpolar stuff in water the water's not attracted to it. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is how this relates um, to your cells. And so one thing to notice, let's see, here's a cell membrane. And do you remember phospholipids? They have one side that's hydrophilic. Phil, it loves, right? And so these sides are smiling because every single one of these sides of the molecule are saying, I love water. Oh my God, you're awesome. And this one's like, I love water too. And they're all saying, oh my God, I love water. And so they're all smiling. And the way phospholipids end up lining up, remember there's water outside of the cell and there's water inside the cell in the cytoplasm. And so these phospholipids tend to orient themselves so that the heads that love water are near water and the tails here that are hydrophobic tend to shun water. They don't mix with water very well. So what I've got here is a protein. It's too big for what I drew, but anyway, that's the way that is. Remember proteins, each one of these little beads is supposed to represent an amino acid, which goes nitrogen, carbon, carbon with an O, looks like this. Hydrogen, hydrogen, hydrogen. This will bond with one of these on another one, whoops, like that. And this is the R group. So the R groups can be hydrophobic or hydrophilic. Some can be charged. But the way a protein will line up, it'll fold and then fold. And so maybe it looks like this and it spans the cell membrane. So you've got the cell membrane there, and of course, the cell membrane continues on this side too. But the protein might go through the cell membrane like that, and I might have it a little bit too big, but pretend I did a good job drawing these. So what you would what I would want you to know is that the amino acids right here must all be hydrophilic. They have R groups that are sticking out here into the water side. And over here, the R groups are all hydrophilic also because they're, they mix with water. But in here, inside the cell membrane, remember, it's not just this two-dimensional thing. The cell is over on top of it and under it, right? And so these R groups would be mixing with the lipids. So these R groups would be hydrophobic. So cool, right?